You're looking for sketchbook ideas for artists, and I have tons of sketchbooks that are filled with drawing ideas ranging from trees and flowers and mountains to cartooning and animation and artwork inspired by media. In this video, you'll find tons of drawing ideas and visual examples that will inspire your next artwork. So let's get started. Flowers. I love flowers. I think they are one of the best drawing ideas because they come in so many different varieties. Each one has a unique personality. What I wanted to show you here was a sketchbook page that I did back when I was learning how to draw flowers. Now, these are done in pen and ink, but I first drew them in graphite. And this was actually done by following a tutorial by a YouTube artist named Shada Campbell. And what I did was when I came in to study flowers, I experimented with flowers that had different textures, that had different compositions and different shapes. So I encourage you to explore drawing flowers. You don't have to find anything complex. You could find ones in this sort of range that is not too simplistic, like too cartoony, but there is enough semi-realism here to be more visually exciting. But of course, you do you and find the type of references that suit your personal preferences and your needs. For example, one day I was super lazy and I did not want to draw anything complex. So all I did here was I filled up a whole page with different types of flowers, and then I colored them in with colored pencil. And as you can see, they're very simple, but the drawing process was still incredibly fun, and it was a great learning process. So here I have some loose sketches of trees. You can tell that there are different types over here, and I encourage you to, for example, if you're picking trees, right, you're doing some studies, make sure your studies are nice and loose and sketchy and free-flowing. On the previous page, I did quick loose studies. Once you've warmed up a bit, then you can go in and do your studies in a bit more of a refined manner. For example, here, I did some studies of a willow tree, a bear tree. These two are like different variations of oak trees. And then on this page, I explored palm trees, this kind of like twisted tree, another sort of spreading tree. Down here was a very funny looking pine tree, and down here I focused on bark. This is a great way for getting a feel of the different types of compositions of trees, the different textures you'll use, the different type of line work that is needed for each one. So this is a really good drawing idea. Then you can branch out into composition that is a little bit more advanced. So for example, here, these trees were actually drawn from an art book that I no longer have anymore. And you could tell that these studies are more dynamic. There are multiple trees, different tree trunks. Here's an exploration of leaves, and you see a lot more texture. I want to show you the final examples. Drawing trees is a lot of fun because there are so many different types of trees and so many different textures and compositions to explore. So as you see here, these are very simple drawings. I believe I followed a tutorial on YouTube when I did these, and this was when I was like way back in the day when I was learning how to draw trees, and my thought process was to experiment with different types of textures, and drawing with pen and ink to do these studies was really great because you can't erase anything, right? So it really encourages you to commit to each stroke, to each texture, to each line. Hey friend, if you're enjoying this video, please give this video a like so that we can tell the YouTube algorithm to spread this video to more artists. Thank you for your support. The next category I would like to talk about is drawing anything from, let's say, your favorite cartoon or movie or video game or maybe a book series, because we can get a lot of drawing ideas from the media that we enjoy. So for example, here, I drew this piece from The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. It's a video game. And I just took a bunch of different characters and I drew them. And then this was way back in the day when I was learning how to use pen and ink. So you could do something like this where you take let's say, a piece of media that you enjoy, and you take characters or creatures or whatever from it, and then you draw it. So here I did it like a collage, a study of characters. You can just draw them, you know, with graphite, with colored pencil, markers, whatever appeals to you. But this is definitely a great way to just experiment with art style specifically. Here's another example I have of studying Tim Burton's art style. I was inspired by both The Nightmare Before Christmas and Corpse Bride. So again, I did another study, and this one's a bit more chaotic than the last one, but as you could tell, this was a really good way to experiment with composition, right? Whereas the other one was a little bit more spread out. There was more white space. This one is a lot busier. So the experiment here was not just the art style, but also me learning how to draw composition. So you can also use your sketchbook that way as a way to develop your skills. So pick a subject matter that you want to draw, and then focus on maybe one or two skills that you want to develop. Here's another example of a study I did of characters from the cartoon Over the Garden Wall. As you could tell, compared to the other studies I did, this one was much more confident and expansive in my willingness to, you know, go darker and really experiment with my inking and take it to the next level. So that's something else you can do with your drawing ideas, is just really push yourself to draw and create outside of your comfort zone, because you never know what kind of art you can create. And so overall, I was really happy with this piece, because at this point, this was the furthest I had ever pushed my inking skills. And the last example I have are these character studies from the cartoon Invader Zim. The main goal of doing this study was to A, work on my inking skills, B, work on my colored pencil skills, because I was still pretty new to using colored pencils at the time, and C, the last skill I was focusing on was learning how to draw things in other people's art styles. So if you've ever seen this show, these two characters don't exist in it. I created them with the sole purpose of just seeing if I could draw them in other art styles. As you could tell, it's fun, it's crazy, it's chaotic, and this is something I encourage you when you are drawing, is to just go all out and have fun. And like I said, a lot of these studies are still imperfect, but the whole point of them is to learn and experiment and grow and expand and have fun and make mistakes and laugh and learn from them and get better each time. So doing studies like this is just a fantastic way to have fun and learn at the same time. Are you looking for creative drawing ideas to overcome art block or find new inspiration? If so, check out my free list of 100 drawing prompts. It's a 6-page PDF document with 100 drawing prompts that are spread across 7 different categories that are filled with diverse subject matter. You can find a link to the drawing prompts list in the description box below. Now I would like to show you another way that you can approach your sketchbooks. When you're coming up with drawing ideas, sometimes it's easier to have an intention for your sketchbook. For example, this sketchbook here that I have has one purpose, and that purpose is to do studies of Disney characters using graphite. So I came up with this purpose so that I could A, learn how to draw different cartoon characters, B, I could learn how to draw people, and C, I could hone my graphite skills. So here you can see I did a study of Peter Pan, and this was quite a while back, so I wasn't as confident in my shading skills. You can see that it's not dark enough in the areas that should be dark, but overall I was so proud of this study, because for me it was the first time that I had ever done something at this caliber. And so what you can do in your sketchbooks is have an intention either for the sketchbook, like the entire sketchbook, or for a page, and use that as a guiding principle to help you with whatever you're drawing on that page. So I'm flipping around and showing you some different studies that I did. Here's another one of Robin Hood where I found a reference online and then I shaded it in a way that I thought made sense at the time, and you could tell that there's quite a jump from the Peter Pan example to this one, just showing the progress I'm making over time. So if you have a sketchbook that has a specific purpose, what's really cool is whatever you've decided to draw in that book, you can see the steady progress of your artwork over time. Here's another example I did. This was actually based off of like a little figurine. So it was a 3D figurine, and I did my best to study light and shadow on the figurine and then capture that on this page. So overall, I think I did a good job. It was definitely a challenge, but doing a challenge like this is great because I was still drawing from life. Technically, I used a figurine as a reference, but it was just a different way to up the ante on my drawing practice. And I was so proud of this when I was done, but what always makes me laugh is I forgot to shade this one little area. And I never went in to shade it because now this page has a funny story to tell. Here's an example I did of Mickey Mouse, the very old school Mickey Mouse, and this is my favorite style that Mickey is drawn in. And as you can see, it's quite dynamic with the shading from very dark values to light values. So this is another great example of showing how one sketchbook and one focus in that sketchbook can yield so many different results. And I'm still using a variety of different Disney characters, so I'm still on theme. Here's one more example because I wanted to show you an example of Nemo from Finding Nemo, where this one has a much more 3D effect because it is from a 3D animation. And this one was more challenging for me to do, but overall I thought it was really fun, especially making all these like little textures and creating this very 3D type of drawing. And the last example I want to show you is Dumbo, because this one was just so light, so soft, so sweet, like so innocent. Look at that little face. Again, the experiment here, as you could tell, I drew some people in the earlier examples, and then I moved into drawing animals. So again, having this variety of subject matter with the Disney characters provided me a lot of different opportunities to explore drawing people and drawing animals and using a variety of shading and textures. So if this idea appeals to you, the idea of picking a specific theme and going with that theme in one sketchbook, I highly recommend it, because your ability or your skill set within that theme or that medium is going to exponentially explode as you commit to this type of a sketchbook. Animals are really great to draw because they come in so many varieties, so many species. That means you can experiment with a lot of different anatomy and textures. I decided to experiment with these because it was something that was outside of my comfort zone. So here you can see I just started out with some very simple sketches of rabbits and cats. And then on this page, I tried other species. So here we have turtles and here we have a red panda. And you could tell that the anatomy is not perfect, but the whole point was just to loosen up and have fun and experiment. Like I said, your studies can be very simple, just like the ones that I have shown you here. Another great example are fantastical creatures. So fantasy creatures such as dragons, phoenixes, griffins, things of that nature. So here the experiment was to draw dragons, and what I did specifically was I found tattoo designs. So these are all designs I found on Pinterest or Google Images, and I just copied them and I experimented with them. This was so far outside my comfort zone, but it was a really good way for me to explore a different art style. I did the same thing. Here I drew some phoenixes, and so what I did here was I found some references of phoenix tattoos and then I drew them. Some final examples include fish. So as you can see, these ones are a little bit different. These ones were done with watercolor pencils, and this was at the beginning when I was learning how to draw with watercolor pencils. So, there's some mistakes, but like I said, this was also done as just like an experiment to get to know this new medium. And the same thing down here, I was still learning how to draw birds or animals in general. And so, yeah, the anatomy is not perfect, but This drawing idea is great because overall these are simple drawings, and here you can tell from the previous example that I felt a lot more confident with my drawing, and so I found a reference on Pinterest and then I drew that, and I believe this one didn't have any colors, so I added my own colors to this, and it was a great way to experiment with watercolors and with blending. And the final examples I have are these multimedia butterflies. As you can tell, they're very simple, very straightforward. Any beginner could draw these, and I just outlined them with ink. And again, I was experimenting with watercolor pencils, so this was a great way to just do some studies of the various butterflies using different mediums. Hey friend, which of these sketchbook ideas appeals to you the most? Head to the comment section below and leave a megaphone emoji in the comment section to get my attention, and tell me which of these drawing ideas you would like me to turn into a tutorial for you. A drawing idea that I really like is drawing landscapes. So what I did here was I took 4 different references of simple landscapes, and then I just translated what I saw in the reference onto the paper. This is a really good example if you just want to do something quick, something simple, and you don't want to put a lot of pressure on yourself. Find references, and you can take a reference and not copy it perfectly. Take creative liberties, right? So if you're not 100%, confident in adding shading, then omit that until you feel more confident adding in those values. What's more important is to translate the idea onto paper and express it. Here are some more examples of drawing ideas that I came up with when I was learning how to draw landscapes. So again, these 4 references, I found them on, I believe it was Pinterest, and then I drew what I saw in those references. Now, if you compared those to the previous examples, these ones are a little more advanced, a little more adventurous, and so you can see here with the details, there's more detailing, there's more shading. You can tell that my confidence was stronger by this point. The point was to practice drawing different types of landscapes. If you're looking for drawing ideas based in nature, then I highly recommend that you explore drawing mountains. Mountains are really fun to draw because they are so organic. Honestly, I don't think anybody can draw a mountain incorrectly, because when you look at the composition, as long as you get that general kind of like triangular peaked type of composition down, you're good to go. Mountains are a lot of fun to draw because you can explore a wide array of textures with mountains, with anything from stippling, such as in this example, or this example where you are using little dots to create the shadows. Or you can do something like simple line work, such as here and here, where you're just using diagonal strokes to indicate where the shadows are. Or down here, you can see examples of some very simple hatching to create the dynamic shading on these mountains. And over here, these mountains were created using ink and water and just using like a little brush to spread the ink out. So if you're looking for drawing ideas, all you have to do is go find some references on, let's say, Pinterest or on Google Images, and find different types of mountains. They can be complex, they can be simple, but the reason why I recommend you do this is because mountains are so textured. That means if you're learning how to draw them, you can learn how to apply a wide variety of different textures to your mountains, and you could play around with different heights and peaks. Some can be rocky, some can be very jagged, others can be covered in snow. The potentials are limitless. So go ahead and check out this drawing idea for yourself and see how versatile it is. So my friend, I hope these drawing and sketchbook ideas have inspired your next artwork. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more art content. And if you're eager to watch more art videos, then I encourage you to check out this video for more fun and creative art content. I'll see you in the next video.